Well, hello again, everyone, and it's time, once again, for another round of the seasonal wrap-up show, Rewind Edition. Once again, you are looking at a completed list, this one being for 2021, in which I finished, how many? 65 shows. God damn, that's a lot. And now, if you've been with me for a while, you would also know that 2021 was the year that I started the seasonal wrap-up show. So I have been doing this for 5 years now at this point. I believe the first episode was just me catching up on stuff that I still wanted to finish from the spring season. So if you go all the way back on this channel, you can see the very first episodes of that. But in any case, today, and for at least the next week after this, maybe 2 weeks, we are going to be covering all of the shows that slipped through the cracks that year. So let's take a look at what those shows are. Hold on, let me add another page so we can scroll down a bit. There we go. So, we got 20 entries that I missed from 2021, either because they were sequels to stuff that I hadn't watched, or OVAs that just slipped by me, or just a lot of these are video game adaptations, so many video game adaptations, or movies that just didn't get torrented or didn't get seeded for a while, and shows that I just generally had no interest in whatsoever that were technically, and well, we'll get to it. So let's go through the list and talk about these shows. We got King's Raid, Successors of the Will, Hortensia Saga, LBX Girls, Garugaku, Tokyo Seventh Sisters, Bean Bandit, Planetarian Snow Globe, Aria the Crepuscolo, Kiratto Pri-chan, Saga of Tanya the Evil, Operation Desert Pasta, Seven Knights Revolution, Hero Successor, Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, Link Click, Blue Reflection Ray, Tomorrow's Leaves, Scarlet Nexus, Muv-Love Alternative, Child of Kamiari Month, Kudwafter, and Aria the Benedizione. I think I said that right. Benedizione. Yeah. So, we'll get at least 2 videos out of this. Maybe 3, depending on how much I have to say. Again, a lot of these are video game adaptations, so we'll see where those go. Maybe there will be a hidden gem amongst them. I highly doubt it, but we gotta give it a shot anyway. So let's start with this first one, King's Raid, Successors of the Will. Have not heard a single person talk about this ever, I don't think. So, maybe it just flew under people's radars, or maybe it's just really fucking bad. Let's find out. Alright, well, I gotta hand it to him. That first episode wasn't terrible. It wasn't good, but not terrible was certainly better than my expectations. It's pretty much just a generic fantasy anime. Like, about as generic as you could possibly get. I really have nothing else to say. I do like the dark elf racism thing. I think that gives it at least some sort of vaguely unique identity, where there's like, we got these dark elves that have been very obvious racism metaphor, where it's like, what are those dark elves doing here? Like, I can imagine, like, 1950s white people energy going on when they see dark elves. But, and I do like I'm at least vaguely curious about where that plot would go, but all of the characters are just super generic and flat. They are extremely one-dimensional. there's just not, and it's like they're not bad characters. They're just incredibly flat and uninteresting. Like, the show doesn't really do anything technically wrong, but it just doesn't have that spark that makes me like, oh, I want to watch more of this. This feels like the start of a D&D campaign. Something like that. And it's also not like terribly animated either. The action scenes are way better than I thought they would be. No CG monstrosities, as I was expecting. The action's probably the best part of this first episode because it's competent. But the character designs are unbelievably generic. Not bad looking, but unbelievably generic. And they really like showing the main girl's tits and ass in the frame a lot. But yeah, this was just very, very generic. Alright, King's Raid coming off the list. Next, we have Hortensia Saga. I'm gonna guess this is another thing based on a video game, probably, that's a fantasy anime. Yeah, I think I heard at least a little bit more about this one when it came out. Not much, but I heard something about it. So let's try it out. Now see, that's the terrible shittiness that I expect from an adaptation of a video game. You know you're on the right track when the first thing that happens is something horrific that traumatizes a young child, and I just burst out laughing because it's just, I don't know, the way that it's framed is partly so cliche, but also so blunt that it just, watching this dude's face get ripped in half and the blood inside of him fly at presumably his daughter's face was just so funny. I don't know why. I don't know why that was funny. Just the framing of it was so goofy. And then I forgot to mention this in the other thing, but like I said that with King's Raid there wasn't really anything particularly wrong with it. There was one thing wrong with it, and the voice acting was incredibly mid. Like, bordering on terrible. Like, there was at one point where there was a spat amongst the nobles, and one of the nobles just started growling at the other guy. He was like, "Hurr!" Like, you just growled at that man. And same thing in this one. Just really not great voice acting, and not a lot of great efforts. If you don't know what that is, efforts are like the sounds that you make in voice acting that aren't like speaking, like grunts and gasps and efforts. I believe that's what they're called, efforts. And the efforts for the voice acting in this are not good. And then, so like, there's this big coup happening within the kingdom. Bunch soldiers fighting brothers in arms and stuff. And who should come out of nowhere with this fucking high-pitched voice but a fucking mascot character with the fucking vocal tick of saying like a nonsense syllable at the end of every sentence like he's a fucking Precure fairy. I lost my fucking mind. It was the funniest fucking thing I have seen all week. And I've been trying to watch comedy anime before this. I was fucking dying. It was so, the tonal whiplash was so severe. It's also a lot of incredibly mid CG soldiers, like very heroic Legend of Arslan in terms of like the CG. A lot of soldiers that are CG fighting each other. It's not good. Boy, that's bad. Oh god, that was so fucking terrible that it was funny. Okay, Hortensia Saga's off the list. Next, LBX Girls. I think I briefly looked at the key visual for this. I think there's mecha involved. I'm not sure. And apparently it's related to Danball Senki, which is a kids series from several decades ago, like the mid 2000s, I think. Know absolutely nothing about it. Let's give it a shot. You know, I've never seen an anime drop frames before, but first time for everything, I guess. This was incredibly mediocre. I think I got like halfway through the first episode. Lot of CG, so much CG, incredibly mediocre CG. And also, I don't like the design. I don't like the character designs. They feel like Love Live knockoffs. And B, I don't like the mech designs. It's just they're power suits, but they're just very not fun to look at power suits. Nothing about this show is fun to look at, and when you're presumably trying to sell model kits, that's kind of important. Also, a lot of mid voice acting. I'm noticing a lot of really not great voice acting in some of these. I wonder if that's going to be a trend. Yeah, I really don't have anything to say else about that. Generic technobabble, fight the hive mind that's destroying the world thing. Next. Okay, LBX Girls off the list. Next is Garugaku. I believe this is a comedy about a girls' school. Gaku being school. That's all I know about it. And I think this is the one where like the entire series isn't subtitled, because I think this is like a 50 episode series. But they might be short episodes, but also it wasn't licensed. Well, let's find out. Hey, remember how I was wondering if bad voice acting was going to be a trend? Well, it is. This might be the worst one yet, but I can't be mad at the voice actress in particular for this, because she was fucking 14 at the time. And just out of curiosity, no one on the cast for this was over the age of 18 when this started airing. Okay, that's a choice, man. Yeah, these are 3-minute episodes, and this is the one where I think only like 10 episodes of it are subbed, but like I only watched the first episode because I saw all I need. This is another idol school one. Not school idol like Love Live, idol school like Aikatsu. There's a difference. It's kind of like Aikatsu. You go to a school to become an idol. You have to do certain things to get like benefits and perks and become a better idol, whatever. Character designs aren't nearly as good as Aikatsu's. And the animation is basically non-existent, except for like one or two cuts of like choreography, and then it just changes over to stills and panning shots. Yeah, no interest in this whatsoever. Alright, Garugaku is off the list, and next is Tokyo's Seventh Sisters. I think this one's a movie, and I think it's another idol one. I know nothing about it other than that, so maybe this one will be slightly better? Let's see. No, worse. Somehow worse. What the fuck?
got like a few minutes into this movie, it's bad. Not like bad CG idols bad like I was expecting, but like the first shot of the idol group, when I saw like the group shot of them, I was like, oh, like bad character designs, just bad. Not appealing at all. And then this is like one of those movies where they decide to have an OP in it, but half the OP is just moving cutouts of the character models, like stills, and they're just moving them around. And actually, I'm giving it too much credit. They're not really moving them around, they're just kind of putting them there. And they're in like wacky scenarios and stuff. That's like half of the OP for this. I was like, this is one of the most low effort anime films I've ever seen. And then after the OP was done, there's like the character models are slightly better when they're not in their idol getups, but not by much. They've been upgraded from to just kind of generic. And it barely moves. It looks like a bottom barrel TV show, but it's a movie. You're supposed to have like movie quality animation. Thankfully, no bad voice acting this time. I got curious and looked it up. The main character plays the main character in Flying Witch, if anyone remembers that show. Good show. Would recommend. It's a nice little slice of life show from 2016? 2015? I don't remember. Somewhere around there. Yeah, watch that instead of this movie, because this is bad.
Out of curiosity, I skipped ahead to one of the performance scenes, and like, yeah, it's not CG, but like they move so slow, it's weird. Like the animators couldn't keep up. This was a hot mess, and also none of the characters that I saw were in the couple minutes I watched were very interesting. Off the list. Bye. Okay, Bean Bandit. This is a sequel / spin-off of Riding Bean, I think. I haven't seen Riding Bean or Gunsmith Cats. I actually read like the first volume of Gunsmith Cats, the manga. But this one actually premiered at ASEN the year that I went to ASEN. I didn't watch it because I didn't have time to. I did get to see the second Made in Abyss compilation movie that year, though. And fucking Baron J was there. I got to watch that with him. That was cool. But I heard this one was actually super disappointing. Let's find out if that's true.
You know, I'm not gonna lie. If I was like a big Riding Bean and Gunsmith Cats fan, and I saw that the manga writer made a Kickstarter to get like an 11-minute little short OVA for this series done, and I saw this, I'd feel pretty fucking insulted. That was nothing. There was a whole minute-long shot. Like, if it wasn't a minute, it was like 57, 58 seconds of just the back bumper of a Pontiac GT, I think. Whichever car manufacturer made the GT. And it was CG, too, to add insult to injury. By the way, 11 minutes long. Well, it's like 11 minutes, 45 seconds. And like 3 minutes of that, 3.5 minutes of that is credits. So you're getting 8 minutes of animation. And it's not good. It's barely fucking animated. There's not a lot of technical detail in it, which is what these kind of OVAs tend to go for. When you've got like the guns and cars OVAs and stuff, they tend to focus pretty heavily on like the technical details of the firearms and the engines and the car bodies and stuff like that. That tends to be a pretty big focus. I don't know for sure if that's what it was like in Riding Bean and Gunsmith Cats. But from what I've heard it is. And this was just like nothing. Like, it still had the raunchy humor of the original series. Like, again, I read a little bit of Gunsmith Cats. It's still got that raunchy humor in it, which debatably does not hold up nowadays. You can give or take on that. I'm not going to go to bat for it either way, but it's not... whatever. But it's still got that. That's the only thing that, and I guess the character designs are the only thing that seemed true to form about this. Fucking who was this for? Just to kickstart some bullshit? What a waste of fucking money. Like, I think when I saw the Kickstarter raised like fucking $15 million or something. It might not have been that much. Maybe it was like 1.5 million. But even then, for 8 minutes of animation, for fuck's sake, man. There are shows in this video that I have talked about that looked better than this. What a fucking insult. That's all I can think about. Is it, if you were a fan of this author and the series and these kinds of shows, this would feel fucking insulting. That's all I have to say. What the fuck?
Okay, I guess Bean Bandit is the first of this catch-up video to finish. And you know, we're really not going to go that far up on the list. We're going to stay all the way at the bottom here. That gets a decent 2. That fucking sucked. Only reason it's not a 1 is A, it did capture the humor of the series pretty well. And B, I'm not big enough of a fan of Riding Bean and Gunsmith Cats to be properly insulted, I guess. But boy, did that fucking suck. Okay. Let's watch something that's hopefully good now. Planetarian Snow Globe. Now, I saw the Reverie of a Little Planet mini-series, or short series, whatever you want to call that. And I liked that quite a bit. That was pretty good. This is just like a 30-minute OVA. I don't know what for. Maybe it's just a different version of the same plot. I don't know, but we're gonna find out.
Okay, that was a nice little short thing. Finished up Planetarian Snow Globe, which is a 30 to 35 minute OVA prequel to Planetarian, The Reverie of a Little Planet, which underrated key anime. It kind of flew under the radar for the most part because it's pretty, I'm not going to say low-key, but it's pretty tame compared to the other anime that Key was associated with at the time. Those being stuff like Rewrite and Charlotte. Stuff that I would consider not good. But this OVA in particular came out, it was like the 15-year anniversary of the visual novel for Planetarian. And so it tells the prequel to Planetarian before the post-apocalyptic scenario begins, of when Yumemi is still working at the planetarium, and we have I already forgot what the main staff member's name is, but her supervisor, I guess, just sort of trying to troubleshoot some issues that she has with Yumemi, just sort of wandering off to try and invite people several kilometers away from the planetarium to go to the planetarium. The twist reveal for why that happened, I guess, was actually pretty fun, making an engagement promise with a 9-year-old and then having to fulfill that promise 9 years later. That was a fun little twist. I don't see why the programmer couldn't have just put like a GPS boundary on her. Like, that seems fairly easy to do. They don't specifically say what he does to try and remedy this wandering situation. So I guess you could like say, maybe assume that he did that and it just didn't work. But I guess, I don't know, it doesn't explicitly say it, so it just was nagging at me for the whole time. But weirdly enough, this OVA is somehow more relevant. This story is somehow a little bit more relevant now than it was when the first Planetarian came out. In fact, it's even a little bit more relevant now than when this OVA came out 5 years ago, because we are now very deeply entrenched in the world of AI, and also the anti-AI movement. And we see a little bit of that come up in this show with with anti-robot movements. We see a little girl attack Yumemi because her dad lost his job to a robot. I don't think it's necessarily the same scenario that we are dealing with right now, but the sentiment is still there. The idea of the AI taking your jobs and such. Which, you know what? Service industry, that is like a thing that I guess would be a relevant fear, I guess. Robots taking your job. If a robot could do a service industry job well and take that away from humans, at least for Americans, that would affect a very large number of jobs. Since America is very much a service-based economy instead of a manufacturing-based economy. So, relevant fears, I guess. Aside from those little bits here and there, it's not the most engaging. It's got some lulls here and there, and it's not bad looking. It's not even mediocre looking. It's just most of it is very average looking for the most part, except for like one shot where they're sitting on a bench and it's like a shot from behind and you can see like the sunset, and it's just very gorgeous out of nowhere, to be honest. But yeah, look, that one particular shot really good. Otherwise, it's well shot. It's well like framed. There's no compositing issues anywhere. Color design's solid, but it's just not very. Aside from that one shot, it's just not very memorable to look at. It's just very plain, and there's not a lot of movement to it. But overall, a decent time was had. I think this is, if you're already a fan of the first Planetarian series, this is definitely something you should check out as like a fun little add-on to that story. It's good.
All right, Planetarian Snow Globe is complete. Let's see, we're gonna put you in the number 61 spot with a decent 6. Might look a bit low, but you know what? It's just a nice little pleasant OVA. Could have looked a little better, could have been paced a little better, but it was fun. Alright. Last one from winter 2021. Aria the Crepuscolo. This is one of 2 Aria OVAs that came out this year. I guess they're technically movies. They're both 50-ish minutes, I think. I talked about, I think it was Avenire, in 2016, was a bit of a letdown compared to the TV series. And I don't really hear people talk about these movies at all, so we're going to give it a shot anyway, though, because I do like Aria. Let's see if it manages to recapture the magic.
Okay, that turned out a little bit better than I was expecting. Although I was expecting this franchise to continually get worse the further it gets away from the original series. But it's still holding on somehow. Finished up Aria the Crepuscolo, which I looked up is Italian for dusk. Kind of fitting with the sort of mood of the series, of this particular film. These Aria sequels continue to do well, I guess I know what to expect from these Aria sequels now at this point, in that they're still mostly centered around the cast of the original series, like Alice and Aika and Akari and all of them, and Athena. Whereas the new girls are just sort of much more so supporting characters. I will say Anya gets a little bit more characterization in this film than she did in Arietta. Or no, it was Avenire was the OVAs before this. But it's a lot of it is just, well, not a lot of it, but some of it is just sort of copy pasted from Alice's backstory that we get for this. I am a sucker for like the passing on from one generation to the next kind of thing. That is that's a big thing in anime in general. And I like it a lot. So I like seeing the line of succession and how each person influences the other. But I think I can confirm at least that Aria still has a story to tell, I guess. It still has some whiffs of interesting philosophizing, one could say. Just these, we get a flashback to Alice as a pair and just training under Athena, and the sort of inadequacies that she faces with that as well. We get a lot of Athena in this one as well, with her trying her best to mentor Alice the best she can, and how she either succeeds or fails in that as she goes along. Um, yeah, sorry, I was getting very sleepy during this episode. Not necessarily because it was boring, although some of the early parts were a little bit slow going. I'm just very tired in general right now. But, yeah, I will say this one took a little bit to get going. Again, because the new girls are not particularly interesting yet. And whenever it's just them, it really does not have a lot of drive behind it, I guess. I will say, what was I going to say? Yeah, it definitely picks up as it goes along, though. The more we get into Alice's mental hang-ups about how she is as a senior now leading, with her leading the next generation as opposed to Atena. And I'm also very torn on the aesthetic of this, because like occasionally it does have some pretty solid, fairly beautiful moments, like the Bubble Kingdom stuff. I thought was very well lit and colored nicely, and the scene with Atena and Alice singing at the end was very nice. And occasionally we'll get some very strong, like, close-up shots of character artwork. But also, I think in this particular era of digital animation, I don't think these designs are getting as much focus as they need. I don't know what, because a lot of the times certain complexities of the character designs end up making them look a little wonky. Like in particular, like the Aria character designs have always had very like well defined like eyelashes. They've always been very detailed and complicated. But however they decided to color and do the line work for this movie in particular made those details feel a little muddy at times. And also the color design is starting to get a little wonky. Not all the time. Again, it does have its moments of beauty. In particular, see, this show looks best when in low lighting, like when the lighting at dusk or nighttime with stuff like that. But when it's in like bright daytime lighting, the colors tend to pop a little too much. Like in particular the wacky anime hair colors. In particular, like the green of Alice's hair and the pink of Akari's hair, and stuff like that. It tends to be a little too pronounced and slightly too saturated. They were definitely, like the color, the particular hues and shades have definitely changed over the years. Not by much, but enough for it to be noticeable. And so it's starting to, because of that, it's starting to have a few compositing issues here and there where everything just doesn't look like it quite fits together. And also there's a lot of CG. In particular with the backgrounds, a lot of CG. That's very detailed CG, but it's not composited well enough to fit with the rest of the shot. I will say the gondolas are a little better. this time around than they were in Avenire. So, like, those did not stick out nearly as much, but the big sweeping cityscape shots definitely stuck out. Also, not a lot of gondola stuff in this film. Like, hardly any, actually. Which is a little weird. Just something I kind of noticed at one point. I was like, they're not really doing a lot of stuff with the gondolas. It's mostly them, like, on land talking about stuff. But, yeah. If you're wondering if you should continue Aria, I'm still up. I think it's still got something to offer, but it is nowhere near the heights of the series in, like, origination, or even in, like, the beginnings of the series with the animation. Aria the animation, I should say. It's just... It's still going, but yeah, it could use a little more fine-tuning, and because I think it could be good. Like, these designs could work with a more modern aesthetic like they did in Amanchu. I just don't know if this kind of project is going to get that kind of attention. Because I think... No, I don't remember when Tama... I think Tamayura wrapped up in 2016, so that would have been over by then. Junichi Sato would have been done with Hugto by the time this came out. So... yeah, I don't know. It is passable, which I would like more from Aria than just being passable, but passable's what we got.
Alright, Aria the Crepuscolo is complete. We're going to scroll up. Where am I going to put you? We're going to put you right above Hathaway, which is another show, movie that I watched recently that was slightly disappointing, but in any case, Aria the Crepuscolo is getting a strong 6 in the number 48 spot. Yeah, definitely could have been better. I think I'm still gonna stick around and watch the Benedizione at the end, but we'll see where we go from here. Alright. Now, that's the winter done. We got 2 new additions from the winter season. We're up to 3 new additions. And also I forgot to put the Girls in Panzer movie from this year on this list. So that's here. So now we're up to 69 shows, which I believe ties maybe for the most anime I've completed in a single season. I'm not sure though. We'll see. I'll go back and check the lists. But in any case, time for the spring season now. Starting with Kiratto Pri-chan. This is a long-running idol anime, I think. I tried watching a little bit of Secret iPri for the past winter season and was not a fan of the comedy. A little too explosive for my taste. But we'll try this one out and see how it goes. This is 150 something episodes, so we'll see if I'm in it for the long haul or not.
Well, I think I definitely liked that one more than Himitsu no Aipri. I don't even know what I'm saying. Are those the same franchise? I have no clue. But I'm not particularly compelled to watch the rest of it. There's nothing, well, there's a few things iffy about it, but, like, on the whole, there's nothing, like, outright bad about the first episode of Kiratto Pri-chan, which I realized shortly after it started, like, oh, Pri-chan, like, channel, like a YouTube channel. They're doing YouTube idols. So, and it's not terrible at that. I think the characters are fine, but there's nothing particularly compelling about them. There's nothing about these characters in particular that makes me go like, yeah, I want to follow these guys for 150 episodes. Which I kind of want to... Next time I watch a Precure series, I'm going to be like, why does Precure hit with its characters and not these other shows aimed at young girls? Like, it can't just be that one has fighting in it. It can't be just that. Or it could. Who knows? But yeah, there's nothing particularly compelling about these characters. The comedy can sometimes be a little abrasive, but other times it can actually be kind of funny and, like, surprisingly, surprising. In just sort of the simplicity of the joke and also just sort of the out-of-nowhereness of it. Yeah, there wasn't... I think it was okay. This was a totally average kind of thing. I kind of knew from jump it was going to be like, okay, the idol segments are going to be all CG because there's no way they could pull that off for a long-running show like this. And it's not bad. It's not good, but it's very... In terms of, like, anime CG, it's pretty average. I think the choreography was pretty solid for the idol dances, and the songs were actually not bad. Although the facial expressions were what really got me. Like, they're just so wooden and not nearly as expressive as they could be, so that's a bit of a huge detraction. But yeah, this was not bad, but not good. Just kind of in the middle, so not really compelled to continue it.
Alright, Kiratto Pri-chan is off the list, and next is Saga of Tanya the Evil, Operation Desert Pasta. This, I guess, is just a short little special or OVA or something that I missed from this year. I didn't even know that this existed until I was going through the seasonal charts to check that if I missed anything. I think this was after the movie, because I think the movie was pre-COVID, wasn't it? I think the movie was pre-COVID. But in any case, good a time as any to watch this, since apparently the new season is finally coming out in the upcoming summer season. So let's watch some Tanya.
Ah, man, I forgot how good this show is. How fucking fun Tanya is. Operation Desert Pasta, despite only being 2/3 the length of a regular episode, 16 minutes, pretty much at the same quality level as a regular TV episode. Explosions look really cool, characters are on model and have that distinctive Tanya style to them. I know it's a little bit, not controversial, but divisive, I guess. Some people think the show just looks really ugly. I kind of like the aesthetic of it. It does also still have the really not great CG that Tanya always has, so that's a bit of disappointing, but that's to be expected from Tanya at this point, so not as disappointing as seeing it for the first time. But there's a lot about this that it just reminds me why I like Tanya the Evil so much. Just that crafty cunning of Tanya thinking on multiple levels about different strategy stuff, while also just kind of being a little shit about it, just being a sneaky little brat. Very fun. The layers to this strategy of we're hitting supply depots that carry the ingredients we need to make pasta in the desert because HQ shipped us pasta with no water and no other ingredients, while also it works on a larger strategic level of those being weak points, because they're all areas where I think the implication is that like the zone of control is a little bit more ambiguous, maybe, or it's because those areas are more hitting those areas affects the alliances with other countries a bit more. Something along those lines. Just interesting strategy stuff. I like the camaraderie and the fucking around and joking around that all of Tanya's soldiers do with each other and with Tanya. I just think that's a very fun part of the series that breathes life into these characters. The characters themselves aren't super individualistic in terms of like characterization, but the joking around does give them a little bit of life that otherwise wouldn't be there. And it's very competently shot, very clean and polished. I think the standard Tanya score is a little bit over the top for this particular story, but that's a minor quibble. This is just a nice little Tanya one-off episode. Makes me very excited for season 2. I might have to just rewatch all of Tanya the Evil before season 2 starts, because I really like this series.
Ah, that's good stuff. Tanya the Evil, Operation Desert Pasta is complete. And where did I say I was going to put you? I'm going to put you, right under the Demon Slayer movie with a decent... come on. Work properly, Mr. Keyboard. You're getting a decent 7. Good stuff. Can't wait for season 2. Okay. Now, one last one from the spring season, because I think I mislabeled the Resident Evil thing as a spring season show, but it came out in July. I double checked, so that's a summer season one. But anyway, last 2021 spring season show, which was the season that I started the seasonal wrap-up show, this being 7 Knights Revolution Hero Successor. Generic-ass title, probably a video game adaptation. Let's give it a shot.
Okay, yeah, this one's got a bit of what I would call a ufotable syndrome, where there is an intense over-reliance on digital effects, and coupled with not even an attempt, really. Well, I shouldn't say that. Minimal attempt at compositing everything well and making it all fit on the same plane of reality. Like, the characters and the backgrounds and the digital particle effects do not look like they are all part of the same scene. This happens a lot with ufotable productions. This show in particular, it's apparently Leiden Films. I had it pegged as Troika, but then I remember that Troika really doesn't make that many anime, so I would have heard about this one. But this show, the bad compositing reminds me a lot of Tales of Zestiria the X, the anime adaptation of that game. But this is even worse, actually. I don't really like the character designs all that much either, so like all that polish for nothing. The action is pretty mediocre. You can't really see what's happening a lot of the time. And for as gory as it is, the gore is not very good. Like, you see like a corpse mutate into one of these monsters after it gets its head bitten off, but like the inside looks like it was made of bubble gum. It's just not good. Also, minor nitpick. I know it's anime, but they refer to the fucking main fighting girl, like the squad leader, as the student council president. I'm sorry, but if you're on the battlefield killing monsters, you're not the student council president, you're a commander, or a captain, or a lieutenant, or something like that. You're not the student council president anymore. I know it's fucking anime, but come on. Yeah, this isn't fun.
Alright, 7 nights, fucking whatever, off the list. And that's the end of the spring season. Only one new edition from that. That would be the Tanya special. But, hey, one's not bad. So now we're going to move on to the summer with Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. I have not seen any of these Resident Evil OVAs or movies or whatever, these full CG things. In fact, I really don't have a whole lot of experience with Resident Evil in general. I've heard you can watch these OVAs or film series in pretty much whatever order you want for the most part. So we're starting here, I guess. I know nothing about it. Let's jump in.
Wow, they really just decided to make a TV show that feels like a video game, huh? I got further into that than I was expecting. I got like 3/4 through the first episode of Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, and it is very schlocky, very campy, but it also takes itself seriously. So, like, in a way, it's kind of fun. Kind of fun being the key word. Like, this is something where if I had absolutely fucking nothing to do for like 2 hours, I would probably binge this. But that scenario doesn't exist. Everything moves like a video game. Things are shot like it's a video game. This feels like a video game. I've seen like a few streams of people playing different Resident Evil games, and I know the basic plots of some of them. I know about Leon saving the president's daughter in RE4. And then RE5 was the vaguely racist one, I think. But yeah, this definitely feels like something where you really don't need to know anything going into this. I feel so like, yeah, I guess the Reddit and such was right on the ball with saying like you can just jump into any of them. If you like schlocky shit that looks like a video game, I guess I can recommend this. The weird thing though is like it's got the similar problem to Gundam Requiem, where the lip flaps don't fit either the English dub or the Japanese dub. Like, sometimes it fits the English dub, sometimes it fits the Japanese dub, but not like always. It's very weird watching the lip flaps. Normally, like with anime, you kind of expect a certain degree. With 2D anime, you expect a degree of like it being off a little bit sometimes. But when it's full CG, especially when they're going for like the realistic CG, like this stuff, if the lip flaps are not on 100%, it looks really it's very disorienting and weird looking. So that's very distracting. Honestly, I think the English dub's not bad. It looks like not a lot of voices not a lot of people I recognized. I recognized Billy Kametz as the one guy. But that's about it. And like it's so the people like move like video game characters sometimes. So like sometimes they'll be moving like fairly realistically, but then sometimes you'll see just the weird jankiness of the CG. The blood looks like fucking chocolate syrup when it spills out of people. It's so viscous and thick and weird. Also, I don't know a lot about gun safety, but there was a shot where characters were holding the gun in such a weird position, like this, and like it was more than like a 90-degree turn of the wrist, and it was so weird. It just looked weird. Again, I don't know anything about gun safety. That could be how you're supposed to do it, but it looked really weird. Yeah, the moment where I like dropped it was like where the voice acting just got way out of control, and a guy started one of the president's advisors just started shouting at him like completely out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, okay, we're getting out of hand here. But also, I'm not sure what Resident Evil's political stance is. It seems to be hinting at some vaguely anti-war on terror stuff, like that we bad guys, or it could not be that, and it could just be. We'll see how that goes. Actually, no, we won't, because I'm not watching any more of this. If you just want to watch something really fucking dumb that's also kind of fun, yeah, this is the show for you, but it's not fun enough for me to continue it. I am just like vaguely fascinated by it in a way, but again, not fascinated enough to continue.
Okay, well, that was at least interesting, but not enough. Resident Evil Infinite Darkness off the list.